King Kong is a 2005 epic monster adventure film that stands as a monumental achievement in cinema history. This film is an American production, made in the United States with significant filming taking place in New Zealand. The movie was directed by the visionary filmmaker Peter Jackson, who previously gained worldwide acclaim for his groundbreaking work on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. King Kong represents Jackson's passionate reimagining of the original 1933 classic film of the same name, which he has cited as one of his primary inspirations for becoming a filmmaker in the first place. The film was produced by Wingnut Films and Universal Pictures, with Peter Jackson not only directing but also co-writing the screenplay alongside Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, his longtime collaborators from the Lord of the Rings films. The production was a massive undertaking with a reported budget of approximately $207 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever made at the time of its release. This substantial investment allowed Jackson to realize his childhood dream of bringing the King Kong story to life with cutting-edge visual effects and modern filmmaking techniques while maintaining respect for the original 1933 version. The film runs for an impressive 187 minutes in its theatrical cut, with an extended edition running even longer at 201 minutes. This epic runtime allowed Jackson to fully develop the characters, build the world of Skull Island with meticulous detail, and create an emotional connection between the audience and the giant ape that serves as the film's tragic hero. Universal Pictures distributed the film worldwide, positioning it as their major tentpole release for the 2005 holiday season. Plot details the story of King Kong unfolds during the Great Depression era of 1933 New York City. The film opens in a struggling, economically devastated America where people are desperate for work and entertainment serves as one of the few escapes from the harsh realities of daily life. We are introduced to Carl Denham, an overly ambitious and somewhat unscrupulous film director who is facing the prospect of his latest project being shut down by the studio due to budget concerns and a lack of confidence in his vision. Denham is a risk-taker, a showman who believes in spectacle above all else, and he is determined to complete his film no matter what obstacles stand in his way. With the studio breathing down his neck and threatening to pull the plug on his production, Denham makes the desperate decision to steal the film reels he has already shot and flee with his crew before the studio can stop him. However, he faces a significant problem as his leading lady has abandoned the production. In a stroke of fortune, or perhaps fate, Denham encounters Darrow, a young vaudeville performer who is struggling to survive in Depression-era New York, and is talented and beautiful but finds herself unemployed and literally starving on the streets. Denham sees something special in her and offers her the role in his film, along with the promise of adventure and the paycheck she desperately needs, and accepts the role and joins Denham aboard the tramp steamer Venture, which is captained by the gruff but decent Englehorn. Also aboard the ship is Jack Driscoll, a playwright whom Denham has essentially trapped on the voyage by delaying telling him about the departure until the ship has already left port. Jack is initially furious about this deception but gradually becomes captivated by and as they rehearse scenes together during the long sea voyage. The two develop a deep romantic connection during their time aboard the ship. As the Venture sails toward an unknown destination that Denham has kept secret from almost everyone, tensions rise among the crew. It eventually becomes clear that Denham is following a map to a mysterious uncharted island that has appeared in legendary accounts and ancient documents. Despite warnings and the crew's growing unease, Denham pushes forward with his obsession. When they finally approach the coordinates, they discover Skull Island, a nightmarish place shrouded in fog and surrounded by treacherous rocks and waters. The island itself proves to be a world lost in time, separated from the rest of civilization and evolution. It is inhabited by a primitive tribe of natives who live behind a massive ancient wall that separates their village from the interior jungle. When the film crew comes ashore to explore and film, they are discovered by the natives, who react with hostility and terror. The crew barely escapes back to their boats, but not before the natives have seen Anne and become fixated on her. That night, the natives from the island secretly board the Venture and kidnap Anne, taking her back to their village for a horrific purpose. The tribe practices a ritual of human sacrifice to appease a god they worship, a massive creature they refer to in their chants, and is dressed in ceremonial garments and offered to this god in a terrifying ceremony at the wall. The crew mounts a rescue mission, but they are too late to prevent the ritual's completion, and is left chained to an altar beyond the wall as drums thunder and the natives chant. From the jungle emerges Kong, a gigantic silverback gorilla standing 25 feet tall, the last of his kind and the undisputed ruler of Skull Island. Kong takes Anne and disappears into the jungle, and thus begins one of cinema's most unique relationships. Initially terrified beyond measure, and gradually realizes that Kong is not simply a monster but an intelligent, emotional being capable of curiosity, protectiveness, and even something resembling affection. Kong is fascinated by Anne, and she slowly begins to connect with him, performing her vaudeville acts to entertain and distract him from his aggression. Meanwhile, Denham organizes a rescue party to venture into the interior of Skull Island to save Anne. This journey takes them through some of the most dangerous and prehistoric terrain imaginable. The island is revealed to be home to creatures that should have been extinct for millions of years. The rescue party encounters massive insects, vicious carnivorous dinosaurs including multiple Vastatosaurus rex specimens, and other nightmarish creatures. The journey is brutal, and several members of the rescue party are killed in horrific ways during encounters with the island's predators. Jack Driscoll emerges as a hero during these trials, driven by his love for and to survive impossible odds. In one of the film's most spectacular sequences, Kong battles 3 V-Rex dinosaurs simultaneously while trying to protect Anne, displaying both his incredible strength and his growing attachment to her. The fight takes place across a massive jungle landscape and demonstrates Kong's intelligence and fighting prowess. Anne witnesses Kong risk his own life repeatedly to keep her safe, which deepens her conflicted feelings about the creature. Eventually, Jack manages to reach Anne and helps her escape from Kong while the giant ape is distracted. They flee toward the coast where the Venture is waiting, but Kong pursues them, destroying everything in his path. His rage at losing Anne is terrible to behold, and he fights his way through the native village, destroying the wall and scattering the tribe. The confrontation culminates at the beach where Denham has prepared a trap. Using chloroform and enormous nets, the crew manages to subdue the mighty Kong and render him unconscious. In a decision that will prove catastrophic, Denham decides to transport the captured Kong back to New York City. He sees the giant ape not as a living being but as a spectacular attraction that will make him rich and famous. He envisions Kong as the centerpiece of a Broadway show, the eighth wonder of the world. Despite the protests and moral objections of some crew members, Denham has Kong chained and loaded onto the Venture for the journey back to America. The film then shifts to New York City where Denham has indeed created an elaborate Broadway presentation. Kong is displayed in heavy chains on a theater stage before a packed audience of wealthy New Yorkers eager for spectacle. And traumatized by her experiences, has refused to participate in the show. Jack has also tried to distance himself from the exploitation. Denham has hired an actress to play Anne in his staged recreation of events. During the presentation, when photographers' flashbulbs begin popping, Kong mistakes them for gunfire and his protective instincts are triggered. He becomes enraged and breaks free from his chains. What follows is one of the most iconic sequences in film history. Kong escapes into New York City searching desperately for Anne. The city descends into chaos as the military is mobilized and Kong rampages through the streets, not out of malice but out of confusion, fear, and his desire to find the one being he has connected with. Eventually, Kong and N are reunited in Central Park. In a tender and heartbreaking scene, the two share a moment on a frozen lake where an ice skates for Kong, recreating moments from their time on Skull Island. For a brief time, they find peace together despite being surrounded by the alien landscape of the modern city. However, this peace cannot last. The military closes in, and Kong realizes they must escape. In a final act of hope, Kong begins climbing the Empire State Building, the tallest structure in New York, perhaps believing it will take them to safety, or simply following his instinct to seek high ground. The climb up the Art Deco skyscraper becomes a race against time as N tries desperately to convince Kong to go back down, while military biplanes are scrambled to attack. The finale atop the Empire State Building is both spectacular and deeply tragic. As the sun rises over New York City, Kong fights off multiple military aircraft while trying to protect N. He successfully destroys several planes but is eventually overwhelmed by machine gun fire. Despite his incredible strength and will to survive, Kong sustains mortal wounds. In his final moments, Kong gazes at N one last time, sharing a moment of understanding and connection before his strength finally fails. He falls from the building, plummeting to the street below where his body crashes in front of a gathering crowd. The film concludes with Denham arriving at the scene where Kong's massive body lies surrounded by police and onlookers. When a policeman comments that the airplanes got Kong, Denham delivers the film's famous closing line adapted from the original movie about how it was Beauty killed the Beast, referencing N and Kong's tragic connection. The cast of King Kong brings together an exceptional ensemble of talented actors who deliver powerful performances that ground the fantastical story in emotional reality. Naomi Watts stars as Darrow, the struggling vaudeville actress who becomes the object of Kong's affection. Watts delivers a remarkable performance that requires her to act opposite a creature that was entirely created through visual effects in post-production. She brings depth, vulnerability, strength, and compassion to N, making her far more than just a damsel in distress. Watts had to imagine most of her interactions with Kong during filming, yet she creates a believable emotional bond with the digital character through her expressive performance. Her background in dramatic acting shines through in every scene, and she successfully makes the audience believe in the impossible relationship at the heart of the story. Jack Black takes on the role of Carl Denham, the ambitious and morally questionable film director. This casting was somewhat surprising as Black was primarily known for comedic roles, but he brings unexpected depth to Denham. Black portrays him as a complex character, a man whose passion for showmanship and cinema blinds him to the ethical implications of his actions. He is not simply a villain but rather a flawed human being whose obsessions lead to tragedy. Black successfully walks the line between making Denham charismatic enough that people follow him and showing the darker aspects of his character that ultimately doom Kong. Adrian Brody plays Jack Driscoll, the playwright who becomes the human romantic lead and the hero of the rescue mission. Brody, who had won an Academy Award for The Pianist a few years earlier, brings sensitivity and unexpected physicality to the role. His Jack is an intellectual force to become an action hero through circumstance and love. Brody convincingly portrays both Jack's growing love for N and his transformation into a capable survivor willing to face dinosaurs and other horrors to save her. The chemistry between Brody and Watts is essential to making the audience invest in their relationship. Thomas Kretschmann appears as Captain Engelhorn, the experienced ship captain of the Venture. Kretschmann brings a weathered dignity to the role, portraying Engelhorn as a pragmatic and decent man who understands the sea and respects its dangers. He serves as something of a moral center among the crew, someone who questions Denham's decisions but ultimately follows through on his commitments. Colin Hanks plays Preston, Denham's personal assistant and a character who becomes increasingly uncomfortable with his employer's obsessive and unethical behavior. Hanks brings a nervous energy to the role, showing Preston's evolution from an eager assistant to someone who recognizes the moral bankruptcy of the expedition's conclusion. Andy Serkis plays Lumpy, the ship's cook, and also provides the motion capture performance for Kong himself. Serkis had previously revolutionized motion capture acting with his portrayal of Gollum in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and he brings the same dedication and skill to bringing Kong to life. Through motion capture technology, Serkis' physical performance and facial expressions were translated into Kong's movements and emotions. Serkis studied gorilla behavior extensively, visiting zoos and working with experts to understand how these animals move, think, and express themselves. His performance is the foundation upon which the visual effects artists built the character of Kong, and his contribution cannot be overstated. Kong is not just a visual effect but a genuine character with emotional depth, and that is largely due to Serkis' groundbreaking performance work. Jamie Bell plays Jimmy, a young sailor aboard the Venture who represents innocence and becomes an audience surrogate experiencing the horrors of Skull Island. Bell brings youthful energy and growing maturity to the role as Jimmy witnesses death and danger throughout the journey. Evan Park portrays Hayes, the first mate of the Venture and a mentor figure to Jimmy. Hayes is a man of principle and courage who becomes one of the most sympathetic characters in the film. Park imbues Hayes with warmth, wisdom, and bravery, making his fate during the island expedition all the more impactful. The film also features strong supporting performances from actors like Kyle Chandler and several New Zealand actors in various crew member roles, each bringing authenticity to their characters and helping to populate the world of the film with believable human beings facing extraordinary circumstances. Release date: King Kong was released in the United States on December 14, 2005, positioning it as a major holiday season blockbuster. The release date was strategically chosen to capitalize on the holiday moviegoing period when families have time off and audiences are looking for spectacular entertainment experiences. Universal Pictures launched the film with extensive marketing and promotional campaigns that built anticipation for months before the release. The film premiered earlier at New York's Loew's Ewok and AMC Empire Theaters on December 5, 2005. With a star-studded event that celebrated the film's connection to New York City, which plays such a crucial role in the story. The premiere was attended by the cast, crew, and various celebrities, generating significant media coverage and building excitement for the wide release. Internationally, the film was released throughout December 2005 and into early 2006 in various markets, with release dates staggered to maximize box office potential in different regions. The release strategy was carefully coordinated to build momentum and allow positive word of mouth to spread across different territories. The film was presented in various formats including standard theaters, IMAX venues, and with enhanced sound systems to showcase the incredible audio design. The theatrical presentation was crucial to experiencing the full impact of the film's visual effects, massive action sequences, and emotional scope. For home video release, King Kong arrived on DVD and HD DVD on March 28, 2006, remarkably quickly after its theatrical run. The home video release included multiple versions of the film, including the theatrical cut and an extended edition with additional footage. The releases were packed with special features including extensive documentaries about the making of the film, covering everything from the visual effects creation to the historical research into 1930s New York and the original 1933 film. A Blu-ray release followed later, and the film has subsequently been made available on various digital platforms and streaming services. Trailer information. The marketing campaign for King Kong included several theatrical trailers that were released in phases to build anticipation and revealed different aspects of the film while protecting the full experience for theatrical viewing. The first teaser trailer was released in mid-2005 and focused primarily on establishing the setting and tone without revealing too much of the story or showing Kong himself clearly. It emphasized Peter Jackson's involvement, leveraging his credibility from the Lord of the Rings trilogy to build confidence in this new project. The teaser used atmospheric footage of the venture sailing towards Skull Island, glimpses of 1930s New York, and brief flashes of danger and spectacle, accompanied by dramatic music that built tension and excitement. The main theatrical trailer was released several months before the film's December premiere and provided a more comprehensive look at the story, characters, and spectacle. This trailer revealed Kong more clearly and showcased some of the film's massive action sequences, including glimpses of the dinosaur battles and Kong's rampage through New York. The trailer was carefully edited to present the emotional core of the story while highlighting the unprecedented visual effects and scale of the production. It emphasized both the adventure aspects of the Skull Island sequences and the tragic love story between Kong and Endot. A final trailer was released closer to the premiere date that featured footage and testimonials designed to build critical buzz and emphasize the film's artistic achievements alongside its entertainment value. This trailer included quotes from early reviews and reactions, positioning King Kong as not just a blockbuster but an important cinematic event. All the trailers prominently featured the film's impressive credentials, including Peter Jackson's direction, the Academy Award-winning talent involved both in front of and behind the camera, and the technological innovations that made the film possible. The marketing emphasized that this was not just a remake but a loving recreation that honored the original, while utilizing modern filmmaking techniques to realize the story in ways that were impossible in 1933. The trailers were accompanied by an extensive marketing campaign that included television spots, print advertising, promotional partnerships, and an innovative online presence that allowed fans to explore Skull Island through interactive experiences. The official website featured games, behind-the-scenes content, and regularly updated materials that kept audiences engaged during the long build-up to release. The promotional campaign also leveraged Peter Jackson's practice of maintaining production diaries, a technique he had used successfully during the Lord of the Rings films. These video diaries gave fans unprecedented behind-the-scenes access to the filmmaking process, showing everything from motion capture sessions with Andy Serkis to the construction of massive sets representing 1930s New York streets. This transparency and fan engagement helped build a dedicated audience eager to see the final result. King Kong ultimately grossed over $562 million worldwide against its $207 million budget, making it a commercial success, though not quite the blockbuster phenomenon that some had predicted given the pedigree involved. The film received widespread critical acclaim with particular praise directed at the visual effects, Andy Serkis' performance as Kong, and the emotional weight of the storytelling. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and won all 4 in technical categories, including Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Sound Editing, cementing its place as a technical achievement in cinema history. The film stands as a testament to Peter Jackson's vision and his ability to combine spectacular action and cutting-edge technology with genuine emotional storytelling. It remains one of the most ambitious and successful reimaginings of classic cinema, honoring its source material while creating something distinctly modern and powerful. King Kong 2005 has earned its place as a beloved entry in both the monster movie genre and in the larger conversation about what blockbuster filmmaking can achieve when driven by passion, skill, and respect for the art form. The beginning Depression era in New York. The story opens in New York City during the height of the Great Depression in 1933. The city is gripped by economic hardship, with unemployment rampant and people struggling to survive. Against this bleak backdrop, we meet Carl Denham, an ambitious and somewhat unscrupulous filmmaker who specializes in exotic adventure documentaries. Denham is facing a crisis. His latest film project is falling apart, the studio has lost confidence in him, and he is running out of money and time. Denham has obtained a mysterious map that allegedly leads to an uncharted island in the Indian Ocean called Skull Island. He believes this location will provide the spectacular footage he needs to save his film and his career. However, he faces multiple obstacles. His leading actress has quit, the studio is threatening to shut down production, and he has no one to star in his picture. While desperately searching for a replacement actress, Denham encounters Indaro, a young vaudeville performer who is struggling to survive in Depression-era New York. And is talented, beautiful, and desperate. She has just lost her job and cannot afford to eat. Denham sees her stealing an apple from a fruit stand out of hunger, and decides she is perfect for his film. He offers her the role, promising adventure, steady pay, and the chance to be in a real motion picture, and accepts, knowing she has few other options. Denham also recruits his favorite screenwriter, Jack Driscoll, essentially kidnapping him aboard the ship by having it leave port before Jack can disembark. Jack is a serious playwright who looks down on Denham's adventure pictures but finds himself trapped on the voyage. The crew sets sail on the SS Venture, a aging tramp steamer captained by the gruff but capable Captain Englehorn. The ship is manned by a diverse crew, and as they journey toward the mysterious coordinates on Denham's map, relationships develop. Anne and Jack are drawn to each other despite their different backgrounds. She is a performer who sees beauty in the world, while he is a cynical writer. Their romance develops gradually during the long voyage. Journey to Scullis Land. As the SS Venture travels further from civilization, the atmosphere aboard ship becomes increasingly tense. Denham keeps the true destination secret from most of the crew, and when they finally learn they are heading to an uncharted island far off any established shipping routes, many become uneasy. First Mate Hayes and Captain Englehorn express concerns about Denham's reckless plan, but they continue onward. The voyage takes weeks, sailing through increasingly dangerous waters. The crew encounters heavy fog, rough seas, and eventually find themselves in a region of ocean that appears on no charts. Navigation becomes difficult as they search for an island that may not exist. Finally, through the mist, Skull Island emerges, a massive, foreboding landmass dominated by an enormous mountain shaped vaguely like a skull. The island is surrounded by treacherous rocks and rough waters. The sight of it fills the crew with dread, but Denham is exhilarated, convinced he has found something extraordinary. They find a break in the rocks and navigate carefully through dangerous waters to reach the island's shore. As they approach, they see evidence of human habitation, crumbling stone structures of incredible age and enormous scale, suggesting an ancient civilization far more advanced than should exist on a remote island. The landing party, led by Denham and including Anne, Jack, Captain Englehorn, Hayes, and several crew members, makes their way inland. They discover a massive wall, hundreds of feet high, constructed of enormous stone blocks. This wall divides the island, separating a small peninsula from the interior jungle. On the inhabited side of the wall, they encounter the island's current residents, a primitive tribe living in squalor among the ruins of the ancient civilization. The natives and the sacrificed the tribal people are hostile and terrified of the outsiders. The natives are dressed in primitive garb and appear to be in the midst of some kind of ceremony. The landing party observes from hiding, trying to understand what is happening. They witness the natives preparing a young woman, adorning her with jewelry and flowers, and leading her toward the massive wall. The natives spot the film crew and react with shock and aggression. A tense confrontation ensues. The tribal chief and shaman notice Anne, and their attention focuses on her intensely. They point at her, speaking in their unknown language, becoming agitated. Anne's blonde hair and fair skin seem to fascinate and disturb them. The situation deteriorates rapidly. The natives demand that the outsiders leave or hand over, and Denham and the crew retreat to their boats, barely escaping back to the ship. They plan to wait until morning before deciding their next move, but Denham is more determined than ever. He knows there is something extraordinary on this island and he intends to film it. That night, under cover of darkness, natives from the island swim out to the SS Venture. They silently board the ship and kidnap Anne from her cabin, chloroforming her before anyone can raise the alarm. By the time Jack discovers she is missing and sounds the alert, the natives are already back on shore with their captive. The crew arms themselves and rushes to shore in rescue boats. They arrive at the massive wall just as the natives are completing their ceremony. Anne, drugged and terrified, is chained to enormous stone pillars on the jungle side of the wall, positioned as an offering. The natives seal the enormous doors in the wall and retreat to their village, chanting and beating drums. The rescue party works frantically to reach Anne, but before they can scale the wall or break through the doors, the jungle erupts with sound. Something massive is approaching through the darkness. Trees shake and bend. The ground trembles with footfalls that sound like thunder. Then he appears, Kong. A gorilla of impossible size, standing 25 feet tall, covered in dark fur and possessed of terrifying strength. Kong approaches Anne, his massive face examining her as she screams in terror. He breaks her chains easily and lifts her in one enormous hand. Anne's screams intensify as Kong turns and disappears back into the jungle, carrying her away. Jack's pursuit and the jungle horrors. Jack Driscoll, driven by his love for Anne and refusing to abandon her, insists on an immediate rescue mission. Denham sees this as an opportunity to film whatever lies beyond the wall. A heavily armed party of crew members, led by Jack and Hayes and accompanied by Denham with his camera, ventures through the wall's gates into the interior jungle of Skull Island. What they discover beyond the wall is a nightmare world that time forgot. Skull Island's interior is a prehistoric ecosystem where creatures from Earth's distant past still survive. The jungle is dense, primordial, and filled with dangers from every era of natural history. The rescue party makes its way through the jungle, following the massive trail left by Kong. The journey is harrowing. They encounter dinosaurs that should have been extinct for millions of years: herbivorous sauropods, aggressive ceratopsians, and predatory theropods. The island's ecosystem is violent and savage, with creatures constantly hunting and being hunted. During their trek, the party is attacked by vicious Venetosaurus pack-hunting dinosaurs that pursue them through the jungle. The attack is brutal and sudden. Several crew members are killed in the assault, torn apart by the reptilian predators. The survivors fight desperately, using rifles and any weapons available, barely escaping with their lives. Meanwhile, Kong has taken into his lair a mountainous region where he lives in isolation. Kong sets Anne down and observes her with curiosity, and is initially paralyzed with terror, but gradually realizes that Kong is not going to immediately kill her. Instead, the giant ape seems fascinated by her, treating her almost like a living doll or toy. Kong demands that Anne perform for him, becoming angry when she is too frightened to comply. Eventually, Anne, realizing that entertaining Kong may be her only chance of survival, begins to dance and perform vaudeville routines for him. Her performance amuses Kong, and his attitude toward her begins to shift from mere curiosity to something approaching affection. The relationship between Anne and Kong develops in complex ways. Kong protects Anne from the island's other predators when a pair of Vastatosaurus rex, prehistoric ancestors of Tyrannosaurus, attempt to attack her. Kong fights them in a spectacular battle to defend her. The battle is brutal, with Kong fighting off multiple enormous predators simultaneously while trying to keep Anne safe. and witnesses Kong's power and ferocity, but also begins to see something else: intelligence, emotion, and a profound loneliness. Kong is the last of his kind, the final giant ape on an island where he reigns as king but has no companions. In N, he has found something: he has never had companionship. The rescue continues. Jack and the surviving members of the rescue party continue their pursuit through increasingly dangerous terrain. They cross a ravine using a fallen log as a bridge, but they are attacked by Kong himself, who appears suddenly and furiously defends his territory and his prize. Kong attacks the men on the log bridge, shaking it violently and sending several crew members tumbling into the ravine below, where they fall to their deaths or are consumed by giant insects and other creatures in the chasm. Jack manages to escape Kong's attack by hiding under the log as it falls. Captain Englehorn's first mate, Hayes, sacrifices himself to save a young crew member, fighting off attacking creatures before being overwhelmed and killed. The rescue mission becomes a disaster, with most of the party killed by either Kong, dinosaurs, or the island's other horrors. Jack, now alone or with only one or two other survivors, continues his pursuit driven by desperation and love. Denham, remarkably, has been filming throughout the catastrophe, capturing unprecedented footage of prehistoric creatures and Kong himself. In the ravine, the survivors encounter the most nightmarish creatures yet: enormous insects, carnivorous worms, and other invertebrates of impossible size that inhabit the chasm. This sequence is viscerally horrifying, with crew members being consumed alive by the giant bugs. Captain Englehorn arrives with reinforcements just in time to save Jack and the other survivors from this fate. Ends escape and recapture and eventually manages to escape from Kong while he is distracted fighting other creatures. She flees through the jungle, trying to find her way back to the wall and safety. The jungle proves almost as dangerous to her as Kong's captivity. She must evade predatory dinosaurs and navigate treacherous terrain. Kong discovers Anne's escape and pursues her frantically. There is a sequence where Anne tries to hide from Kong, understanding now that despite their developing bond, she cannot remain his captive. Kong's search for her is almost mournful. He seems genuinely distressed that she has left him. Jack finds Anne before Kong does, and they share a brief, emotional reunion. But Kong soon tracks them down. There is a tense standoff where Jack tries to protect Anne from Kong, but he is no match for the giant ape's power. Kong prepares to kill Jack, seeing him as a rival for Anne's affection, and makes a crucial decision. She steps between Kong and Jack, communicating with Kong through gestures and expressions. She makes Kong understand that she will stay with him if he spares Jack's life. Kong, showing remarkable intelligence and emotional capacity, accepts this bargain. He takes Anne and leaves Jack alive, returning to his mountain lair with her. This moment cements the complex relationship between Anne and Kong. She is still his captive, but there is now mutual understanding between them. Anne sees Kong as a thinking, feeling being rather than a simple monster. Kong sees Anne as more than just a possession. She is a companion whose wishes have meaning to him. Denham's plan. While this drama unfolds in the jungle, Carl Denham has been formulating a new plan. His film is spectacular, capturing creatures and events no one has ever seen, but he realizes he has an opportunity for something even greater. If he could capture Kong and bring him back to New York, he would have the greatest spectacle in entertainment history. Denham returns to the SS Venture and organizes a new expedition not to rescue Anne, but to capture Kong. Captain Englehorn is initially opposed to this insane plan, but Denham is persuasive, promising enormous financial rewards and convincing the captain that they can accomplish it with proper preparation. The crew constructs traps using the ship's chains and equipment. They load chloroform bombs and gather weapons. Denham's plan is to lure Kong into a trap using Anne as bait, then subdue him with gas and chains before transporting him back to the ship, Jack, learning of this plan, is horrified. He tries to convince Denham to abandon this scheme and simply rescue Anne, but Denham is obsessed now with the idea of capturing Kong. The filmmaker sees dollar signs and fame, blind to the ethical implications or the enormous danger of trying to transport a 25-foot gorilla across the ocean to civilization. The trap is set near Kong's lair, and is used as bait position where Kong will find her but within range of the trap's mechanisms. When Kong arrives, the trap is sprung. Heavy chains ensnare him, and chloroform bombs are detonated, filling the air with knockout gas. Kong fights desperately against the chains, his roars of rage and betrayal echoing across the island, and screams for them to stop, pleading with Denham not to do this, but the filmmaker is committed to his course. Kong's strength is incredible. He nearly breaks free despite the heavy restraints, but the concentrated chloroform eventually overcomes even his constitution. The giant ape collapses, unconscious. As Anne watches in tears, Kong is bound in even heavier chains and transported to the beach. An enormous raft is constructed, and Kong's unconscious form is loaded onto it and towed to the SS Venture. The voyage home. The journey back to New York takes weeks. Kong is kept sedated in the ship's hold, bound in heavy chains, and spends much of the voyage sitting near Kong's imprisoned form, feeling tremendous guilt over what has happened. She knows that Kong protected her, fought for her, and in his way cared for her, and in return, he has been betrayed and enslaved. Jack tries to comfort Anne, but she is haunted by Kong's fate. She argues with Denham, pleading with him to return Kong to Skull Island, but the filmmaker refuses. He is already planning Kong's debut in New York, a theatrical presentation that will make him wealthy and famous. During the voyage, there are moments when Kong regains partial consciousness, and his eyes meet Anne's. There is recognition there, and something that might be accusation or sorrow. Anne realizes that Kong understands she was used as bait to trap him, though whether he blames her is unclear. The SS Venture eventually arrives in New York Harbor. Kong is still unconscious and chained as he is unloaded and transported to a theater that Denham has rented for Kong's presentation. The arrival of a giant ape in New York causes a sensation. Newspapers run wild stories, crowds gather, and tickets to see the eighth wonder of the world sell out instantly. The New York presentation. Denham has staged an elaborate theatrical presentation at a grand New York theater. Kong is displayed on stage, still unconscious and bound in heavy chains, surrounded by theatrical lighting and curtains. The audience is filled with wealthy New Yorkers in evening wear, expecting an evening of spectacular entertainment. Denham plays the role of showman, building up Kong's mystique and danger. He tells the story of Skull Island, of prehistoric monsters, of Kong's capture. As his presentation reaches its climax, Denham introduces Darrow, the beauty that tamed the beast, and, dressed in an evening gown, is brought on stage reluctantly. Jack is in the audience, watching with growing apprehension. Denham positions Anne near Kong for the photographers, wanting to recreate the image of Beauty and Beast for maximum publicity value. The photographers' flash bulbs begin firing dozens of bright flashes illuminating Kong's face. The giant ape begins to regain consciousness, disturbed by the lights and noise. As Kong awakens, he sees Anne nearby and the crowd of humans surrounding them. Disoriented and enraged, Kong begins to struggle against his chains. Denham assures the panicking audience that Kong is secure, but he has underestimated the giant ape's strength. Kong's fury at his captivity and his instinct to protect and combine to give him superhuman power. He begins to break his chains, the metal links snapping under impossible force. Panic erupts in the theater. The audience stampedes for the exits as Kong breaks free completely, roaring his rage and defiance. The giant ape smashes through the theater, pursuing Anne, who has fled in the chaos. Kong's rampage through the theater is destructive but focused. He is searching for and not randomly attacking. Rampage through New York. Kong emerges onto the streets of New York City, finding himself in a world completely alien to his jungle home. The city's lights, sounds, vehicles, and massive crowds trigger both confusion and aggression in the giant ape. Kong begins moving through the city, searching for and the rampage that follows is catastrophic. Kong overturns vehicles, smashes through buildings, and causes widespread destruction. Police respond, but their weapons are ineffective against Kong's thick hide and enormous size. Bullets annoy him but do not seriously wound him. The giant ape continues his search, growing more frustrated and violent. Kong's intelligence is evident even in his rampage. He is not simply destroying randomly but searching methodically through the city. He occasionally picks up blonde women, examining them before discarding them when he realizes they are not an. This shows that Kong specifically wants to find and not just any human. Meanwhile, Ann and Jack are trying to escape the city, but they cannot outrun the news of Kong's rampage. Everywhere they go, they encounter chaos caused by the giant ape's search. Ann realizes that Kong will not stop looking for her and that his rampage is causing innocent people to be killed and injured. Eventually, Kong finds Ann. She is in the street, and Kong recognizes her immediately. In a moment of quiet amidst the chaos, Ann and Kong lock eyes. The giant ape's rage subsides somewhat as he approaches her gently, in stark contrast to the destruction he has been causing. Kong carefully picks up Ann, cradling her in his massive hand. There is a moment of calm. Kong has found what he was searching for, and does not scream or struggle, understanding that Kong means her no harm. Their strange bond, forged on Skull Island, still exists even here in civilization, but the military has been mobilized. Army units arrive with heavy weapons, preparing to destroy Kong. Jack watches helplessly as Kong, holding Ann, begins to climb, seeking high ground and safety as he would in his jungle home. The Empire State Building. Kong chooses the tallest structure he can see. The Empire State Building, the recently completed skyscraper that dominates the New York skyline. With Ann held safely in one hand, Kong begins climbing the building's exterior, using his incredible strength to scale the Art Deco facade. The climb is spectacular and terrifying. Kong ascends hundreds of feet, higher than any building on Skull Island, driven by instinct to seek elevated, defensible ground. Crowds gather below, watching the impossible sight of a giant ape climbing the world's tallest building with a woman in his grasp. Kong reaches the top of the Empire State Building, over 1,000 feet above the streets. He sets Ann down on the observation deck and surveys his surroundings, the vast cityscape spreading in all directions, a jungle of steel and stone that must seem completely incomprehensible to him. For a brief moment, there is peace. The sun is rising over New York, and Kong and Ann share a quiet moment at the top of the world. Ann sees the sadness and confusion in Kong's eyes. He is completely out of his element, surrounded by a civilization he cannot understand, hunted by creatures he cannot defeat. Then the aircraft arrive. The military has deployed biplanes, fighter aircraft armed with machine guns. The planes were scrambled to destroy Kong before he can cause more destruction. They circle the Empire State Building, preparing their attack runs. Kong sees the approaching planes and roars his challenge. He is a jungle king facing enemies that fly like birds but make sounds like thunder. His instinct is to fight, to defend his territory and protect Ann. He carefully positions Ann in a relatively safe spot on the observation deck, then prepares to face the aircraft. The final battle. The biplanes begin their attack runs, strafing Kong with machine gun fire. Unlike the pistols and rifles that barely harmed him, the aircraft's heavy machine guns tear into Kong's flesh. He is wounded but fights back with astonishing ferocity. Kong swipes at the planes as they buzz past him, his enormous reach allowing him to grab at them. He catches one plane, tearing it apart and sending it spiraling down to crash in the streets far below. The other pilots become more cautious, making their attack runs from angles where Kong cannot easily reach them. The battle is brutal and one-sided. Kong is brave and powerful, but he cannot fight aircraft effectively. Each strafing run tears more bullets into his body. Blood stains his dark fur as the wounds multiply, and screams for the planes to stop, but her voice cannot be heard over the engine roar and gunfire. Kong continues fighting despite his mounting injuries. He destroys another aircraft, but more keep coming. His movements become slower as blood loss and exhaustion take their toll. Still, he fights on, driven by the same determination that allowed him to survive as the last of his kind on Skull Island. Eventually, Kong's strength fails. Riddled with bullets and mortally wounded, the giant ape cannot maintain his grip on the building. He looks at and one final time a look filled with complex emotions that transcend their different species. There is recognition, affection, and perhaps even forgiveness in that final gaze. Kong falls. His massive body tumbles from the top of the Empire State Building, plummeting over 1,000 feet through the cold morning air. The fall seems to last forever. Kong's body strikes the street below with tremendous impact, the sound of it echoing through the city. The ending crowds gather around Kong's fallen body. Police establish a perimeter, but people press close to see the giant ape who terrorized their city. Kong lies still, his chest no longer rising with breath. His eyes are open but lifeless, staring at nothing. Carl Denham arrives at the scene, pushing through the crowd to see what his obsession has wrought. Someone in the crowd remarks that it was the airplanes that killed Kong, that the beast was too powerful for any other weapon to bring down. Denham looks at Kong's massive body and speaks the film's famous final line, correcting the speaker. "Oh no, it wasn't the airplanes. It was Beauty killed the beast." Anne and Jack arrive as well, working their way through the crowd, and looks at Kong's body with tears streaming down her face. She approaches the fallen ape despite police attempts to keep people back, and kneels near Kong's massive head, placing her hand on his face in a final gesture of farewell. The tragedy of Kong's story is complete. Taken from his island home where he was king, brought to a civilization he could never understand, and killed trying to protect the one being who showed him gentleness and companionship. Kong was not an evil creature, he was intelligent, capable of affection, and ultimately a victim of forces beyond his understanding. The film ends with this tableau: Kong's body surrounded by the citizens of New York, and grieving over him, and Jack standing protectively near her. The morning sun illuminates the scene, the same sun that rose on Skull Island now shining on Kong's final resting place in the concrete jungle of New York City. The ending emphasizes the film's themes: the destructive nature of exploitation, the tragedy of misunderstanding between different beings, the cost of human ambition, and the question of who the real monsters are: the giant ape trying to protect what he cared about, or the humans who captured him, displayed him, and ultimately killed him. Kong's story is a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, a powerful being brought low by circumstances beyond his control, dying far from home, killed by creatures he tried to protect and those who exploited him. The final image of his massive body lying in the New York street, with in mourning beside him, drives home the emotional and moral weight of the narrative. King Kong, 2005, complete cast and their career histories: Naomi Watts and Darrow. Naomi Watts portrayed in Darrow, the struggling vaudeville actress who becomes Kong's captive and develops an unexpected bond with the giant ape. This role showcased Watts' remarkable ability to convey complex emotions while performing opposite special effects that would be added in post-production. Early life and career beginnings. Naomi Ellen Watts was born on September 28, 1968, in Shoreham, Kent, England. Her father was a road manager for Pink Floyd, and her mother was an antiques dealer and costume designer. After her father's death when she was 7, her family moved to Australia. Watts grew up in Sydney and began her acting career in Australian television during the late 1980s. Her early work included appearances in Australian television shows and commercials. She studied at a drama school in Sydney and worked steadily in Australian productions throughout the early 1990s. Her first significant role came in the Australian drama For Love Alone in 1986, though it was a small part that did not lead to immediate stardom. Struggling years, Watts moved to the United States in the early 1990s, hoping to break into Hollywood. What followed were nearly 10 years of struggle and rejection. She auditioned for countless roles but was repeatedly passed over. During this difficult period, she took small parts in forgettable films and television shows, barely making ends meet. She appeared in projects like Tank Girl, 1995, Children of the Corn 4, The Gathering, 1996, and various television guest spots, but none of these led to career breakthrough. Watts has spoken openly about how close she came to giving up acting during this period. She was in her early 30s, an age when many actresses find opportunities diminishing, and she had not yet landed a significant role despite years of effort. She worked as a waitress and took odd jobs to support herself between acting gigs. Breakthrough with Mulholland Drive. Everything changed in 2001 when director David Lynch cast Watts in Mulholland Drive. The film was originally shot as a television pilot that was rejected by networks, then reworked into a feature film. Watts' performance as Betty Elms/Diane Selwyn was mesmerizing. She portrayed two versions of the same character with completely different personalities, showcasing her remarkable range. Mulholland Drive became a critical sensation and cult classic. Watts received widespread acclaim for her performance, earning numerous award nominations and suddenly becoming one of Hollywood's most sought-after actresses. At age 33, after more than a decade of struggle, Naomi Watts had finally achieved her breakthrough. Post-Mulholland Drive success. Following Mulholland Drive, Watts' career took off dramatically. In 2002 she starred in The Ring, an American remake of the Japanese horror film. The film was a massive commercial success, grossing over $249 million worldwide and establishing Watts as a bankable leading lady. Her performance as journalist Rachel Keller dealing with a supernatural curse was both vulnerable and determined, proving she could carry a mainstream thriller. In 2003, Watts delivered another acclaimed performance in 21 Grams, starring alongside Sean Penn and Benicio del Toro. Her portrayal of a grieving mother earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, cementing her status as a serious dramatic performer. The same year, she appeared in Le Divorce and demonstrated her versatility with lighter material. Watts continued building an impressive filmography with I Heart Huckabees, 2004, a quirky existential comedy where she worked with an ensemble cast. She also starred in We Don't Live Here Anymore, 2004, a dark relationship drama that showcased her ability to portray complex, flawed characters. King Kong and Major Stardom. When Peter Jackson cast Watts in King Kong, 2005, she was at the height of her powers as an actress. The role of Vendero required her to perform extensive motion capture work, react to creatures that would be added digitally, and convey a developing relationship with a character that did not physically exist during filming. Watts studied the original 1933 film extensively, paying tribute to Fay Wray's performance while creating her own interpretation. The production was grueling. Watts spent months in New Zealand performing demanding physical work, often in harsh weather conditions. She had to imagine Kong during scenes, working with stand-ins, green screens, and sometimes just markers to indicate where the giant ape would appear. Her ability to make the relationship between and in Kong emotionally believable was crucial to the film's success. Post-Kong career. After King Kong, Watts continued taking on challenging, diverse roles. She starred in The Painted Veil, 2006, opposite Edward Norton, playing a woman finding herself during the 1920s cholera epidemic in China. She appeared in Eastern Promises, 2007, working with director David Cronenberg in a Russian mob thriller. In 2012, Watts received her second Academy Award nomination for The Impossible, a disaster drama about the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Her performance as a mother fighting to survive and find her family was physically and emotionally demanding, earning widespread critical praise. Watts portrayed Princess Diana in Diana, 2013, a controversial biographical film that received mixed reviews despite her committed performance. She also appeared in Birdman, 2014, the Academy Award-winning film about a washed-up actor attempting a comeback, showcasing her ability to work within ensemble casts. Her later work includes St. Vincent, 2014, with Bill Murray, Demolition, 2015, The Glass Castle, 2017, and Loose, 2019. Watts has also worked extensively in limited series television, including Gypsy, 2017, for Netflix, and The Loudest Voice, 2019, for Showtime, where she portrayed Gretchen Carlson. Throughout her career spanning over 3 decades, Watts has proven herself one of the most versatile and committed actresses of her generation, capable of carrying blockbusters like King Kong, while also delivering nuanced performances in smaller independent films. Jack Black, Carl Denham. Jack Black portrayed Carl Denham, the ambitious and somewhat unethical filmmaker whose obsession with capturing Kong drives the film's narrative. This was a departure from Black's usual comedic roles, requiring him to play a more serious, morally ambiguous character. Early life and comedy beginnings. Thomas Jacob Black was born on August 28, 1969, in Santa Monica, California. His parents were satellite engineers who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope, giving Black a scientifically minded upbringing. However, Black was drawn to performance from an early age. He attended the Crossroads School for Arts and Sciences in Santa Monica and later UCLA, though he left before graduating to pursue acting. Black's early career was rooted in comedy. He appeared in small television roles throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, including commercials and guest spots on shows like The Golden Girls and Life Goes On. His comedic timing was evident even in these minor roles, but breakthrough remained elusive. The Actors Gang and early film work, Black became involved with the Actors Gang, a Los Angeles-based theater company founded by Tim Robbins. This experimental theater group allowed Black to develop his craft and make important connections in the entertainment industry. Through this work, he honed his improvisational skills and physical comedy abilities. His early film appearances were small and often uncredited. He appeared in Demolition Man, 1993, Waterworld, 1995, The Fan, 1996, and Mars Attacks, 1996, among others. These roles were typically brief, giving Black little opportunity to showcase his talents. He was the funny friend, the quirky background character, or the comic relief in action films. Television success. Black's first real breakthrough came in television with the HBO series Mr. Show with Bob and David, 1995 to 1998. This sketch comedy show, created by Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, featured Black in various recurring roles. His work on Mr. Show demonstrated his versatility, willingness to commit fully to absurd premises, and ability to improvise brilliantly. The cult success of Mr. Show raised Black's profile within comedy circles and led to more substantial film opportunities. He also appeared on The X-Files and other television shows during this period, gradually building recognition. Film breakthrough. Black's film career gained momentum with High Fidelity, 2000, directed by Stephen Frears and starring John Cusack. Black played Barry, a passionate, obnoxious record store employee. Though a supporting role, Black stole many scenes with his energetic, over-the-top performance. The film was critically acclaimed and commercially successful, introducing Black to wider audiences. In 2001, Black starred in Shallow Hal, a Farrelly Brothers comedy where he played the title character who sees inner beauty as physical beauty after hypnosis. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $141 million worldwide and establishing Black as a leading man in comedies. Tenacious D. Parallel to his acting career, Black formed the comedy rock duo Tenacious D with friend Kyle Gass in 1994. The duo performed live and eventually landed their own HBO series, Tenacious D, 1997 to 2000. Their comedic music, combining genuine musical talent with absurdist humor about rock mythology, developed a devoted cult following. Tenacious D released their self-titled debut album in 2001, which went platinum. Black's musical abilities. He has a genuinely impressive vocal range, added another dimension to his entertainment career. The success of Tenacious D proved Black was not just a comedic actor but a multi-talented performer, leading man status. School of Rock, 2003, directed by Richard Linklater, became Black's signature role. He played Dewey Finn, a failed rock musician who poses as a substitute teacher and forms a rock band with his students. The role perfectly showcased Black's musical abilities, physical comedy, and surprising emotional depth. The film was both a critical and commercial triumph, grossing over $131 million domestically. School of Rock proved that Black could carry a family-friendly film while maintaining his anarchic comic energy. His performance was praised for bringing genuine heart to what could have been a one-note character. This success made Black one of Hollywood's most bankable comedy stars. King Kong and dramatic range. When Peter Jackson cast Black as Carl Denham in King Kong, 2005, many were surprised. The role required Black to play a morally complex character, ambitious, selfish, and ultimately responsible for Kong's capture and death with minimal opportunities for comedy. Black had to be charismatic enough that audiences understood why people followed Denham, but also showed the character's darker qualities. Black approached the role seriously, studying the character and working to suppress his natural comedic instincts when inappropriate. His performance received praise for showing a different side of his abilities. Denham needed to be believable as both an inspiring leader and a ruthless opportunist, and Black successfully walked that line. Working with Peter Jackson on such an epic production was also valuable experience for Black, showing he could function in a major special effects-driven blockbuster alongside dramatic actors like Naomi Watts and Adrian Brody. Post-Kong career. After King Kong, Black continued mixing comedies with occasional dramatic work. He starred in Nacho Libre, 2006, playing a Mexican monk who becomes a luchador wrestler. The film divided critics but found an audience, particularly among younger viewers. Black voiced Pa, the protagonist of Kung Fu Panda, 2008, beginning a franchise that became one of his most successful ventures. His voice work as the enthusiastic, food-loving panda was perfect casting, allowing Black to use his energetic delivery while creating a genuinely lovable character. He reprised the role in Kung Fu Panda 2, 2011, Kung Fu Panda 3, 2016, and various shorts and specials. He appeared in Tropic Thunder, 2008, playing a method actor in a war film satire. He starred in Year One, 2009, Gulliver's Travels, 2010, and Bernie, 2011, the latter being a dark comedy based on a true story that earned him some of his best reviews for a more subdued, nuanced performance. Goosebumps, 2015, and its sequel, Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween, 2018, saw Black playing author R.L. Stine in family-friendly adventures. He also starred in the Jumanji reboot films, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, 2017, and Jumanji, The Next Level, 2019, which became massive commercial successes, with the first film grossing over $962 million worldwide. Throughout his career, Black has maintained his work with Tenacious D, releasing albums and touring. His ability to balance music, comedy, voice work, and occasional dramatic roles has made him one of entertainment's most versatile performers. Adrian Brody, Jack Driscoll. Adrian Brody portrayed Jack Driscoll, the playwright who becomes Anne's love interest and pursues her into the dangerous interior of Skull Island. This role required extensive physical work and allowed Brody to showcase his action hero capabilities alongside his established dramatic skills. Early life and background. Adrian Nicholas Brody was born on April 14, 1973, in Woodhaven, Queens, New York City. His mother was photojournalist Sylvia Plachy, and his father was retired history professor and painter Elliot Brody. Growing up in a creative, intellectual household in New York gave Brody exposure to arts and culture from an early age. Brody attended the Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, the prestigious public arts school in Manhattan that has produced numerous successful performers. He studied acting seriously from a young age, attending the Stony Brook University before transferring to Queens College. His distinctive appearance, particularly his prominent nose and intense eyes, initially seemed like it might limit his casting opportunities, as he did not fit conventional Hollywood leading man standards. However, these unique features eventually became assets, making him memorable and giving him character actor credibility even as a young performer. Early career. Brody began acting professionally as a teenager, appearing in an off-Broadway play at age 13. His film debut came in 1989 with New York Stories, directed by Woody Allen, Francis Ford Coppola, and Martin Scorsese. Though his role was small, it was an auspicious beginning. Throughout the 1990s, Brody worked steadily in film and television, building an impressive resume of supporting roles. He appeared in King of the Hill, 1993, directed by Steven Soderbergh, where his performance as a young man struggling during the Depression earned critical notice. He had roles in Angels in the Outfield, 1994, Solo, 1996, and Bullet, 1996, with Mickey Rourke and Tupac Shakur. Brody's work during this period demonstrated his range and commitment. He appeared in The Last Time I Committed Suicide, 1997, 6 Ways to Sunday, 1997, and Restaurant, 1998. These independent films allowed him to develop his craft away from Hollywood spotlight, working with interesting directors on character-driven material. Breakthrough roles. Brody's career gained significant momentum with Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line, 1998, a philosophical war epic about the Battle of Guadalcanal during World War II. Though much of his footage was cut from the final film, a common occurrence with Malick's editing process, what remained showed Brody could hold his own among an ensemble of established actors. He appeared in Summer of Sam, 1999, directed by Spike Lee, playing a young man caught up in the paranoia surrounding the Son of Sam murders in 1970s New York. The role showcased Brody's ability to portray working-class New York characters with authenticity. In The Thin Red Line. Despite reduced screen time, Brody's performance was memorable enough that it opened doors to better opportunities. He followed with roles in Liberty Heights, 1999, Oxygen, 1999, and Bread and Roses, 2000, continuing to work consistently in both independent and studio productions. The Pianist and Oscar glory. Adrien Brody's career-defining role came with Roman Polanski's The Pianist, 2002. Brody portrayed the Ladislaus Spillman, a Polish-Jewish pianist who survived the Holocaust through a combination of luck, assistance from others, and his own will to survive. The role required Brody to lose 30 pounds, learn to play Chopin on piano, and convey devastating emotional trauma largely through silent physical performance. Brody's preparation for the role was intense and method-oriented. He isolated himself, gave up his apartment and car, moved to Europe, disconnected from friends and family, and immersed himself completely in the character's desperate circumstances. This extreme commitment showed in every frame of his performance. The Pianist was a critical triumph, and Brody's performance was universally praised as one of the great acting achievements in cinema. At the 2003 Academy Awards, Adrien Brody won the Oscar for Best Actor, becoming the youngest actor ever to win that award at age 29. His acceptance speech became famous when he spontaneously kissed presenter Halle Berry before giving an emotional speech about the film's themes. Winning the Oscar at such a young age launched Brody into a different stratosphere of fame and opportunity, though it also created challenges as he tried to find roles that could match the intensity and quality of The Pianist. Post-Oscar career. Following his Oscar win, Brody faced the difficult challenge of following up such a monumental achievement. He appeared in Dummy, 2003, a small independent film released around the same time as The Pianist. He starred in The Village, 2004, Night Shyamalan's period thriller, which was commercially successful but received mixed critical reviews. Brody also appeared in The Jacket, 2005, a psychological thriller where he played a Gulf War veteran institutionalized in a mental hospital. The film showcased Brody's willingness to take on dark, challenging material even after achieving Oscar success. King Kong, 2005, represented Brody's entry into blockbuster filmmaking. Peter Jackson wanted an actor with serious dramatic credentials to ground the fantastical story, and Brody's recent Oscar win made him perfect casting. The role of Jack Driscoll required extensive physical work running from dinosaurs, fighting through jungle environments, and performing action sequences that were far removed from Brody's usual dramatic work. Brody trained extensively for the physical demands, building stamina and learning to perform in front of green screens and motion capture equipment. His natural intensity served the character well. Jack needed to be believably desperate and determined enough to pursue and through a prehistoric nightmare world. Working on such a large-scale production was new territory for Brody, who had built his reputation primarily in character-driven dramas and independent films. The experience showed he could function as an action hero while maintaining the emotional authenticity that defined his best work. Continued diverse work. After King Kong, Brody continued pursuing varied, interesting roles rather than becoming a conventional leading man. He appeared in Hollywoodland, 2006, playing a fictional detective investigating the death of George Reeves. He starred in The Darjeeling Limited, 2007, Wes Anderson's comedy drama about brothers traveling through India, marking his first collaboration with Anderson. This began a fruitful partnership. Brody appeared in several subsequent Wes Anderson films, including Fantastic Mr. Fox, 2009, as a voice actor, The Grand Budapest Hotel, 2014, and The French Dispatch, 2021. Anderson's stylized filmmaking and ensemble cast proved a perfect fit for Brody's talents. Brody also appeared in Cadillac Records, 2008, playing Leonard Chess and showcasing musical abilities. He starred in Splice, 2009, a science fiction horror film about genetic experimentation. He took the lead in Predators, 2010, a reboot of the action franchise, again demonstrating his action credentials. His later work includes Midnight in Paris, 2011, Woody Allen's romantic comedy where Brody played Salvador Dali in a hilarious cameo performance. He appeared in The Experiment, 2010, Detachment, 2011, Giallo, 2009, and numerous other projects that showcased his range. Brody has also worked extensively in television in recent years, starring in the series Houdini, 2014, Peaky Blinders, 2017, and most notably, Succession, 2021 to 2023, where his portrayal of Josh Aronson earned him renewed critical acclaim and introduced him to new audiences. Throughout his career spanning over 3 decades, Brody has maintained his commitment to interesting, challenging roles over conventional stardom, building one of the most eclectic and respected filmographies of his generation. Andy Serkis, Kong and Lumpy the Cook. Andy Serkis provided the motion capture performance for Kong, creating the giant ape's movements, expressions, and personality through groundbreaking performance capture technology. He also appeared in a traditional acting role as Lumpy, the ship's cook. Early life and theater background. Andrew Clement Serkis was born on April 20, 1964, in Ruislip Manor, Middlesex, England. His father was a medical doctor, and his mother was a teacher. Serkis grew up in a creative household and developed interest in performing arts during his school years. Serkis attended Lancaster University, where he studied visual arts but became heavily involved in theater. After graduating, he joined various theater companies and worked extensively in British theater throughout the 1980s and early 1990s. His stage work included classical theater, experimental productions, and contemporary plays, giving him a comprehensive foundation in performance. Early television and film. Serkis began appearing in British television during the late 1980s. His early work included roles in series like The Bill, Casualty, and various British dramas. These roles were typically small, but they allowed Serkis to develop his craft and gain experience before cameras. His film career began with small roles in productions like Prince Caspian and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, 1989, and various other British films and television movies throughout the 1990s. Serkis worked steadily but was not a particularly well-known actor during this period. One notable early role was in Career Girls, 1997, directed by Mike Leigh. Leigh's improvisational, character-driven approach to filmmaking allowed Serkis to demonstrate his range and commitment to character development. He also appeared in 24-Hour Party People, 2002, playing Martin Hannett in the story of Manchester's music scene, The Lord of the Rings and Gollum. Andy Serkis' career transformed completely when Peter Jackson cast him as Gollum in The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Initially hired primarily as a voice actor, Serkis convinced Jackson that he should perform the character physically as well, wearing a motion capture suit so his movements could be translated to the digital character. Serkis' performance as Gollum was revolutionary. He created a fully realized character through physical performance, vocal work, and emotional expression that was then translated through technology into a digital character. His work required him to perform scenes on set with other actors, often in uncomfortable positions, wearing a motion capture suit covered in markers. The voice Serkis created for Gollum, a hissing, desperate, pitiful yet sinister sound, became iconic. But equally important was his physical performance. The way Gollum moved, his expressions, his body language. All of this came from Serkis' performance, captured digitally and translated to the final character. The Fellowship of the Ring, 2001. The Two Towers, 2002, and The Return of the King, 2003, were massively successful critically and commercially, winning numerous Academy Awards. However, Serkis himself was not nominated for acting awards, as the Academy and other organizations struggled with how to categorize performance capture acting. This began an ongoing debate about whether performance capture should be eligible for traditional acting awards, establishing performance capture as acting. Following The Lord of the Rings, Serkis became the leading advocate for recognizing performance capture as legitimate acting rather than merely technical work. He gave interviews explaining the process, emphasizing the acting skills required, and pushing for performance capture actors to receive the same recognition as traditional actors. Between the Lord of the Rings films, Serkis appeared in The Escapist, 2002, Death Watch, 2002, and other projects in traditional roles. However, his work as Gollum had established him as the premier performance capture actor in the industry. King Kong. When Peter Jackson began developing King Kong, 2005, he knew he wanted Kong to be a fully realized character rather than simply a monster. Jackson turned to Serkis, having worked with him extensively on The Lord of the Rings, to bring Kong to life through performance capture. Serkis' preparation for Kong was extensive. He studied gorillas for months, visiting zoos and watching documentary footage to understand how gorillas move, express emotion, and interact with their environment. He worked with gorilla experts and movement coaches to perfect the physicality of a giant ape. On set, Serkis performed Kong wearing a motion capture suit, often on all fours, moving like a gorilla while interacting with the other actors. Naomi Watts has spoken about how crucial Serkis' presence was. Having him physically there allowed her to react to an actual performer rather than simply imagining Kong. Serkis provided Kong's vocalizations and breathing, though these were later processed and enhanced. More importantly, he provided Kong's movements, gestures, and expressions. Every time Kong looked at and with affection, showed curiosity, or expressed rage, that performance came from Serkis. Jackson also cast Serkis in a traditional on-screen role as Lumpy, the ship's cook, allowing Serkis to appear visibly in the film as well. This dual role showcased Serkis' versatility. He could both create a giant ape through performance capture and deliver a conventional character performance. Post-Kong career. After King Kong, Serkis continued pioneering performance capture work. He appeared in The Prestige, 2006, directed by Christopher Nolan, in a traditional acting role. He worked on various other projects, but his most significant work continued to be in performance capture. Serkis played Caesar in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 2011, another groundbreaking performance capture role. His portrayal of the intelligent chimpanzee who leads an ape revolution was so compelling that it reignited debates about Academy Award eligibility for performance capture. Many critics and industry professionals argued that Serkis' work deserved Oscar consideration. He reprised the role in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 2014, and War for the Planet of the Apes, 2017, with his performance becoming increasingly nuanced and powerful across the trilogy. Caesar became one of cinema's great characters, entirely due to Serkis' performance. Serkis also returned to Middle-earth as Gollum in The Hobbit trilogy. An Unexpected Journey, 2012, The Desolation of Smaug, 2013, and The Battle of the Five Armies, 2014. His scene with Martin Freeman's Bilbo Baggins in the first film, recreating the famous riddle game, was a highlight of the trilogy. Expanding into directing, Serkis moved into directing with Breathe, 2017, a biographical drama about a polio victim, starring Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy. The film received positive reviews and showed Serkis had talent behind the camera as well as in front of it. He directed Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, 2018, a darker adaptation of The Jungle Book, where he also performed as Baloo through motion capture. He directed Venom, Let There Be Carnage, 2021, showing he could handle big-budget superhero filmmaking. Star Wars and Marvel. Serkis joined the Star Wars franchise, playing Supreme Leader Snoke in The Force Awakens, 2015, The Last Jedi, 2017, and The Rise of Skywalker, 2019, through performance capture. He entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Ulysses Klaue in Avengers Age of Ultron, 2015, and Black Panther, 2018, this time in a traditional on-screen role. Later work and legacy. Serkis has continued working prolifically in both performance capture and traditional roles. He appeared in Black Panther, 2018, The Batman, 2022, as Alfred Pennyworth, and numerous other projects. He co-founded the Imaginarium Studios, a production company specializing in performance capture technology, helping advance the field he pioneered. His advocacy for performance capture recognition has gradually succeeded the technology, and the acting it requires are now widely recognized as legitimate performance art. While Serkis himself has never received an Oscar nomination for his performance capture work, his influence on cinema has been profound, essentially creating a new form of acting. Throughout his career, Serkis has proven that performance capture is not computer animation but rather a new medium for actors, one requiring all the skills of traditional acting plus additional physical and technical demands. His work as Kong remains one of the great examples of this art form. Thomas Kretschmann, Captain Engelhorn. Thomas Kretschmann portrayed Captain Engelhorn, the pragmatic ship captain who transports Denham's expedition to Skull Island. The role required Kretschmann to play a morally centered authority figure who questions Denham's decisions. Early life and German career. Thomas Kretschmann was born on September 8, 1962, in East Berlin, East Germany, then part of the German Democratic Republic. Growing up in communist East Germany shaped Kretschmann's early life and worldview. As a young man, he became disillusioned with the East German system and made the dangerous decision to defect to the West. At age 19, in 1981, Kretschmann escaped from East Germany by swimming across the Oder River to West Germany, risking his life for freedom. This dramatic personal history gave him a unique perspective and life experience that would later inform his acting. After reaching West Germany, Kretschmann studied at the Max Reinhardt Seminar Drama School in Vienna, Austria. He began his acting career in German-language theater and film, working steadily throughout the 1980s in European productions. European film work. Kretschmann built a successful career in European cinema throughout the 1980s and 1990s. He appeared in numerous German, French, and international European co-productions, establishing himself as a reliable, talented actor in European film. Some of his notable German-language work included Draußen vor der Tür, 1986, Der Joker, 1987, and various television productions. He worked with respected European directors and gradually expanded his range, playing everything from historical figures to contemporary characters. His international profile grew with Stalingrad, 1993, a German film about the disastrous World War II battle. The film was Germany's official submission for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film and brought Kretschmann to wider attention. Hollywood breakthrough. Kretschmann transitioned to English-language cinema in the late 1990s and early 2000s. His distinctive appearance, intense eyes, strong features, and natural authority made him ideal casting for military officers, historical figures, and authority characters. His breakthrough in American cinema came with The Pianist, 2002, directed by Roman Polanski. Kretschmann played Captain Wilhelm Hosenfeld, the German Wehrmacht officer who discovers pianist Ladislaus Spillmann hiding in Warsaw and, moved by his humanity and talent, provides him with food and protection. The role required Kretschmann to portray a Nazi officer with nuance and humanity, showing that even within a monstrous system, individual acts of kindness were possible. The Pianist was critically acclaimed and commercially successful, winning 3 Academy Awards. Kretschmann's performance was praised for its subtlety and moral complexity. He made Hosenfeld's decency believable without minimizing the horrors of the Nazi regime, building Hollywood career. Following The Pianist, Kretschmann worked steadily in American and international productions. He appeared in Blade 2, 2002, playing a vampire warrior in Guillermo del Toro's action horror film. He had roles in U-571, 2000, Resident Evil Apocalypse, 2004, and other action films, often playing military characters or authority figures. His German background and multilingual abilities made him valuable for historical films and international productions. He could authentically portray German characters while being comfortable working in English-language productions. King Kong, 2005, gave Kretschmann a significant role in a major blockbuster. Captain Engelhorn required an actor who could convey leadership, moral integrity, and pragmatic intelligence. Kretschmann brought gravitas to the role, making Engelhorn a voice of reason who questions Denham's increasingly reckless decisions while maintaining authority over his crew. The role allowed Kretschmann to work with Peter Jackson on an epic production and demonstrate his ability to function in effects-heavy blockbuster filmmaking. Engelhorn served as a moral center in the story, a man doing his job but increasingly uncomfortable with the expedition's purpose and cost. Post-Kong career. After King Kong, Kretschmann continued working in both Hollywood and European productions. He appeared in The Stendhal Syndrome, 2006, Wanted, 2008, starring Angelina Jolie, Valkyrie, 2008, with Tom Cruise about the plot to assassinate Hitler, and Trans-Siberian, 2008, a thriller set on the Trans-Siberian Railway. He played Baron Wolfgang von Strucker in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, appearing in Captain America, The Winter Soldier, 2014, and Avengers: Age of Ultron, 2015. This gave him exposure to massive contemporary audiences through the world's biggest franchise. Kretschmann also worked extensively in television, appearing in series like The River, 2012, Dracula, 2013 to 2014, where he played Abraham Van Helsing, and Westworld, 2016. His television work often featured him in guest starring or recurring roles in major productions. Later film work includes Hitman, Agent 47, 2015, The Man in the High Castle, 2015 to 2016, television series.